And a lawyer for Vanessa Guillen's family says Army investigators have officially identified the soldier's body. Guillen had been missing since April. Her remains were found buried near Fort Hood Tuesday. Investigators say she was killed by a fellow soldier who took his own life last week. Congressman Joaquin Castro issued a statement after the remains were identified, saying, "In the months since her disappearance, thousands of people across the United States, particularly Latinas, have spoken up about sexual harassment and assault in the military, echoing the allegations of the Guillen family. Their voices must be heard and listened to." Now, some of those speaking up were at a local protest and vigil tonight for Vanessa Guillen. The demonstrators gathered outside San Fernando Cathedral. They called for a crackdown on sexual harassment on military bases. Demonstrators say this and other protests that we've seen across the country are as much for other women as they are for Guillen.
I think we stand here not just for the Hispanic community, but I think more importantly to bring out the women themselves. I think we should really bring great notice into how much women are trying their hardest to get through and showing how the inequality is still there.
In a press conference Thursday, Army investigators said there is no credible evidence so far that anyone sexually harassed Vanessa Guillen.